So, you've always wanted to build your own custom Android ROM, but then you look at your computer and think, no way can this thing handle it, right? Well, you come to the right place. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on Crave.io, an amazing tool that basically gives you a cloud supercomputer for free. Let's jump in. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the big problem that Crave.io solves. Then I'll walk you through getting your account and your keys all set up. After that, it's the fun part. We'll fire off your first build. We'll even cover what to do when things go wrong, because they will. And we'll wrap up with some simple rules of the road to make sure you're using this awesome service the right way. All right, let's start with what I like to call the builder's dilemma. If you've ever tried to compile an Android ROM from source code, you probably know that feeling, that moment when your PC's fans sound like a jet engine and your whole system just grinds to a halt. Yeah, it's kind of like trying to tow a boat with a bicycle. It's just not going to work. And trust me, you are definitely not alone in feeling that frustration. The thing is, building Android from scratch is an absolute beast. I mean, look at these requirements. You need tons of RAM. We're talking double-digit gigabytes. You need hundreds of gigs of storage space, preferably fast storage. You need a really beefy processor. And on top of all that, a very specific Linux setup. Most of us just don't have a machine like that sitting around. And that is where Crave.io comes in to save the day. Just think of it as your own personal, super powerful build server that lives in the cloud, ready whenever you need it. It's totally free, it's designed for open source devs, and it's become so important to the community, especially after other services that people used to rely on went away. Okay, time to get our hands dirty. Setting everything up is actually pretty simple. It's just a quick 3-step process, and then you'll be ready to start building for real. So it all boils down to this. First, you request an account. Simple enough. Second, you install what's called the CLI tool. That's just a little program that lets your computer talk to the Crave.io servers. And third, you set up your API key, which is basically a secret password that proves you are who you say you are. First things first, you're going to head over to the Crave.io website. You'll see a link right there to get a ROM Builder's account. That'll take you to a Google form. You fill it out, request to access, and once you're approved, you'll get an invite in your email. And that's it, you're in. Okay, next up, you got to install that command line tool. It's super easy no matter what you're running. On Linux, it's a quick curl command. If you're on a Mac, you can just use Homebrew. On Windows, you just download and unzip a file. You can even run it on your Android phone using Termux if you're feeling adventurous. This is the last little piece of the puzzle. You just log in to your Crave.io dashboard, go to the API keys section, and tell it to create a new one. It'll give you a file to download called crave.conf. All you have to do is take that file and drop it in the same folder as the Crave tool you just installed. Boom, you're connected. All right, now for the really fun part. Let's put this all together and actually build something. We're going to craft our first build command and send it off into the cloud. Whoa. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That command looks absolutely terrifying. But hang on, don't worry. The best way to think about this is like it's a really detailed recipe. You're not just telling the server, hey, bake me a ROM. You're giving it the full list of ingredients, the precise mixing instructions, and the exact baking time. It's the whole process, from A to Z, in one command. So, let's break this recipe down, ingredient by ingredient. Each different color here represents a different step in the process. We're going to walk through what each part does, from cleaning up the workspace to actually kicking off the build. So here's the flow. We start by cleaning up, getting rid of any old files. Then we use repo init to grab the main Android source code. After that, we pull in the specific files for our device. Then this magical script, resync.sh, makes sure all the code plays nicely together. Finally, we set up the environment, we pick our target device with lunch, and then we give the magic words, make bacon. That's what tells it to start compiling everything, the whole assembly line, right there. But, this is software development. Things don't always go perfectly on the first try. So what happens when things break? Let's talk about troubleshooting. Look, let's be real. At some point, your build is going to fail. It happens to literally everyone. But here's the secret. That giant wall of scary red text is not a stop sign. It's actually a map. The error log contains all the clues you need to figure out what went wrong and how to fix it. Check this out. Here's a classic example. The log on the left is yelling about an SE policy error. That's basically part of Android's security rulebook. Now, the error itself looks like total gibberish, right? But if you just copy and paste that line into a search engine, you'll almost always find what's on the right, the exact GitHub commit that fixes it. A lot of the time, it's just a simple one-line change. And here's another super common one, a kernel error. The kernel is the very core of the OS, so these can feel intimidating. But again, the log points you to the exact file that's causing the problem. A quick search for that error leads you right to the fix on GitHub. Some other developer already ran into this and figured it out. See? The log gives you the puzzle, but the community usually has the answer key. Now, Crave.io is an incredible free service that we all get to share. And to make sure it stays that way for everyone, there are just a few simple rules of the road we all need to follow. Okay, this is probably the most important rule of all. Before you do anything else, and especially before you ask for help, please read the official documentation. You can find it on the community wiki at fossen.top. Seriously, it's packed with useful info, and will probably answer 90% of your questions. So let's run through these golden rules. They aren't just suggestions, they're really important for keeping the platform healthy. For instance, you don't use RepoSync because Crave has its own special scripts that are way more efficient. You don't queue up a bunch of builds at once because that's not fair to other people waiting in line. It's really all about being a good citizen in this shared digital space. And really, that's the big takeaway here. Crave.io is a true game changer. It completely levels the playing field. It doesn't matter if you've got a top-of-the-line gaming rig or an old laptop from 2015. With Crave.io, you have access to the same incredible build power for free. It empowers anyone with a great idea to contribute to the open-source Android community. So, we've walked through the why, the how, and the what if it breaks. You literally have the keys to a powerful Android build factory right at your fingertips. The only thing left to ask is, what are you going to build first?